Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. And today we're going visual. We're headed to Los Angeles, where wildfires are raging.
Yeah.
But we're not just watching the news.
Yeah.
We're going to see these fires from space.
That's right. We're diving into a NASA Earth Observatory article. It's called Smoke Trails and Scorching Skies. And honestly, it's packed with satellite imagery that captures the scale of these fires, but also provides some really crucial data that's helping firefighters down on the ground.
So it's early January 2025.
Right.
And multiple wildfires are burning across Los Angeles. The Palisades fire and the Eaton fire.
Yeah.
Those are the two big ones grabbing the headlines. Dry conditions, and then those infamous Santa Ana winds come roaring in. Talk about a perfect storm for disaster.
The Santa Anas are something else, really. These hot, dry winds descend from the mountains and funnel through those canyons, and they can turn even just a small spark into a massive wildfire incredibly fast.
And that's where our high-tech heroes come in, right?
Exactly.
And NASA's Terra and Aqua satellites.
Yeah.
They're up there, orbiting Earth with their MODIS instruments constantly scanning the surface.
Yeah, it's like having a pair of superpowered eyes in the sky.
I love that.
MODIS stands for Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer.
Okay.
So think of it as a very specialized camera that not only captures images, but it also detects heat and even sees through smoke.
No way.
Which is unbelievably valuable when you're trying to track wildfires.
Yeah.
Plus, Terra and Aqua orbit in a way that they pass over the same spot on Earth at different times of day, giving us more frequent updates on how those fires are behaving.
So it's January 10th. Terra snaps this incredible image of the Palisades fire, and you see these enormous smoke plumes. I mean, enormous, billowing out from the fire, stretching over the Pacific Ocean. Now, a red flag warning was in effect, which means extreme fire danger, and you can just feel the intensity in that image.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that the image actually reveals the fire's path and intensity in a way that you just can't get from the ground.
Oh.
For example, you can clearly see the Palisades fire burning near the Pacific Palisades neighborhood and how it's spreading westward toward Malibu.
Gotcha.
So that kind of visual intelligence is crucial for firefighters, obviously, as they plan their attack.
Makes sense.
We also see the Eaton fire in that same image. It's burning to the east. At this point, the Palisades fire had already scorched over 20,400 acres and was only 8% contained. The Eaton fire, meanwhile, had burned nearly 14,000 acres and was a mere 3% contained.
The next day, Aqua captures another image. And things have, they've shifted.
Yeah.
The Palisades fire is still churning out these massive amounts of smoke, but the Eaton fire's plume is much less prominent.
Right. That's a great example of how wind patterns can so dramatically affect what we see from space. So the wind direction had shifted, making only the Palisades smoke really visible in Aqua's image. But both fires, make no mistake about it, they were still active and growing. By January 11th, the Palisades fire had spread to over 22,700 acres, with containment inching up to 11%. The Eaton fire had also grown to over 14,100 acres.
Jeez.
Containment had improved slightly to 15%.
Okay.
Firefighters had managed to make some progress during this brief lull in the winds, but stronger winds, while they were in the forecast, they were predicted to return.
Oh, no.
Which, as you can imagine, adds another layer of complexity to an already very complex situation.
And this is where NASA's role goes way beyond just taking pictures. They have this, I don't know what to even call it. It's like this disaster response coordination system that kicks into gear during events like this.
It's pretty impressive.
Okay, so walk us through this.
Imagine you're a firefighter, right? And you're battling a blaze of this magnitude.
Okay.
Intense heat, thick smoke, constantly shifting conditions. Now imagine having this team of experts, right? Providing you with real-time satellite data maps analysis that shows you exactly where the fire is moving and how intense it is. That's what NASA's disaster response coordination system does.
So they're working hand in hand with the firefighters on the ground.
Absolutely, yeah. NASA collaborates with agencies like CAL FIRE and the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, and they provide them with the most up-to-date information coming from these satellite images, which, it's crucial for making strategic decisions about where to deploy resources and how to coordinate firefighting efforts. It's really like having this extra set of eyes watching over the entire situation.
Yeah.
Only these eyes are, 250 miles above Earth.
So I'm picturing this satellite data as almost like a secret weapon for firefighters.
It's not a secret, though. Well, one of the best parts is that NASA makes this information available to the public through an open access mapping portal.
Wait, so anyone can go online and see these satellite images and track these fires in real time?
Exactly. Transparency is important, right? Because it allows researchers, journalists, even just concerned citizens to stay informed about the situation, and you never know, maybe even contribute to finding solutions.
So we're seeing how satellite technology is completely changing how we understand and respond to these massive wildfires.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're entering a whole new era of disaster management.
Yeah.
But how does this affect people who aren't, directly involved in fighting the fires?
Yeah.
Like, these fires are happening in California, but what about someone living in, I don't know, New York?
Right.
Why should they care?
That's a great question, and it kind of speaks to the interconnectedness of everything, right?
Yeah.
So even if you're not living in a fire-prone area, these events, the impact can be felt far and wide. Wildfires contribute to air pollution.
Oh, right.
And that smoke can travel for thousands of miles, affecting air quality in distant cities and states.
Yeah.
Wildfires release greenhouse gases, which of course contribute to climate change. And we all know that climate change is driving more extreme weather events globally.
So even if you're not in California, those wildfires, they're having an impact on your life, whether you realize it or not. It really underscores the global nature of these challenges.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the Palisades and Eaton fires.
Right.
But these are just two examples. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more of these massive wildfires popping up all over the world.
Yeah, that's right. We're definitely seeing an increase in both the frequency and intensity of wildfires, in many parts of the world. Climate change, land management practices, you name it, it's all contributing to this trend.
So this isn't just a California problem or even an American problem.
Yeah.
This is a global issue.
Globally.
With consequences that reach far beyond the immediate areas affected by the fires.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to keep investing in research and technology, like these Earth-observing satellites.
Because they're giving us the tools we need to understand, predict, and respond to these fires more effectively. But what about the future? This technology is incredible.
It is.
But where do we go from here?
Yeah.
Can we do even better?
Absolutely. We're really just at the beginning
Yeah.
of what's possible with satellite technology. Imagine a future where we can use artificial intelligence and machine learning to analyze years of satellite data.
Okay.
Not just to track fires, but to actually predict where and when they're most likely to occur.
Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie.
Oh, right?
Like, we could actually predict wildfires before they even happen.
That's the goal. If we can identify the areas that are most vulnerable to fire, then we can start taking steps to actually reduce that risk, potentially preventing some fires from even starting. So it's like moving from a reactive approach to a proactive approach.
Right.
Right. And it's not just about prediction either. Yeah. We're also developing, new satellite instruments that are even more sensitive to heat, allowing us to detect fires even earlier when they're just, smoldering embers.
So we could potentially catch a fire before it's even visible to the naked eye.
Exactly. That early detection capability would be a game changer. Think about it. Minimizing fire damage and protecting lives and property. But it can't just be about technology, though.
Right.
We also need to increase public awareness about fire safety, encourage responsible land management practices, and of course address the root causes of climate change. It's a multifaceted problem, right? So it requires a multifaceted approach.
So what can our listener do to be a part of this solution?
There's a lot we can all do. Staying informed about wildfire risks in your area, making sure you have an evacuation plan, create defensible space around your home if you live in a fire-prone area, and, supporting policies that address climate change and promote sustainable land management. Every little bit helps.
That's great advice. We all have a role to play in protecting our planet and each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground here. From the dramatic satellite images of the Palisades and Eaton fires to these innovative technologies that are helping us fight these fires and mitigate their impact.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating discussion, and I hope they come away with a deeper appreciation for the power of satellite technology and its potential to address the growing challenge of wildfires.
I agree. It's inspiring to see how human ingenuity is being used to tackle these complex issues.
It gives me hope for the future. We're facing some serious challenges, but we're also developing the tools and knowledge we need to overcome them.
Well said. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, I want to leave our listener with the final thought. We've seen how valuable these satellite images are for understanding wildfires as they're happening. But what about using them to predict future fire risk? Could we analyze years of data to identify areas that are most vulnerable and take steps to reduce the risk? I mean, before a fire even starts. That's something to think about. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll delve deeper into the science behind these fires and explore some of the cutting-edge technologies being used to combat them.
You know, it's remarkable how much information we get from these satellite images.
It really is. We can see where the fires are burning, how intensely, how the wind is affecting their movement. It's like this real-time strategic map for the firefighters.
It is.
But you mentioned earlier that MODIS can see through smoke.
Oh, yeah.
How does that actually work?
It's fascinating, really. So MODIS doesn't just capture those images in the visible light spectrum, you know, like our eyes do. It also detects infrared radiation, which is basically heat.
So even if the fire is hidden by this thick blanket of smoke, MODIS can still sense the heat radiating from it.
Exactly. And MODIS is particularly good at detecting certain wavelengths of infrared radiation that are really strongly emitted by fires. It's kind of like tuning a radio to a specific station.
Yeah.
MODIS is tuned to pick up the heat signals from those fires, even if they're totally obscured by smoke.
That's incredible. So it's not just a camera, it's like a heat-seeking sensor as well.
Right.
No wonder it's so valuable for tracking wildfires.
Right.
But how do they turn those heat signals into the actual images we see?
Well, the data that MODIS collects is transmitted back down to Earth.
Okay.
And then it's processed by these very sophisticated computer algorithms.
Gotcha.
These algorithms analyze the different wavelengths of light and infrared radiation and create those color-coded images that we see.
Oh, okay.
The colors represent different temperatures, with hotter areas appearing brighter.
So the images aren't just pretty pictures. They're actual visual representations of the data that MODIS is collecting.
Right.
And that data is being used to inform real-time decisions about fighting the fires.
Exactly. And that's just one example, really, of how these NASA Earth-observing satellites are playing such a crucial role in disaster response. And they're not just limited to wildfires either.
Right. We've talked about how they're used for other natural disasters like hurricanes, floods, earthquakes. How do they help with those?
Well, each type of disaster presents its own unique challenges, of course.
Yeah.
But the basic principle, I mean, it's the same, right? Satellites provide this comprehensive view of the situation you just can't get from the ground.
Right.
So, for example, during hurricanes, satellites can track the storm's path, measure the wind speeds, and even estimate rainfall amounts.
Wow.
And this information is vital, right?
Yeah.
For issuing accurate forecasts and warnings so people can prepare and evacuate if necessary.
And with floods, I imagine satellites can help assess the extent of the damage.
Yes.
And even guide relief efforts.
Exactly. They can map flooded areas, identify infrastructure that's been damaged, even help locate people who might be stranded.
It's really amazing how versatile this technology is. It's like having a whole toolbox of instruments up in space.
It is.
All working together to help us understand and respond to these events. But as impressive as all this technology is, I can't help but think about the bigger picture.
I know what you mean.
These wildfires, hurricanes, floods, they're all becoming more frequent and intense.
You're absolutely right. Climate change is a major factor driving these trends. As global temperatures rise, we're seeing these more extreme weather events, including more severe wildfires.
It is a sobering thought.
Yeah.
But it's encouraging to know that we are developing these incredible tools to help us mitigate the impact of these events.
It is a race against time, though.
Yeah.
We need to act swiftly to address climate change.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we also need to be prepared for the challenges that we're already facing.
Yeah.
And that's where this technology, like NASA's Earth-observing satellites, that's where they can really make a difference.
I agree. It's about using every tool we have to protect our planet and ensure a safe and sustainable future for everybody. Now, you mentioned that NASA makes this satellite data available to the public.
I do.
Could you tell us more about that? Where can people go to see this information for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So NASA has this incredible online portal called the Disasters Mapping Portal.
Okay.
It's a free resource where anyone can access all this satellite imagery and data related to natural disasters.
So if somebody wanted to see like the latest satellite images of the wildfires in California or any other event, they could just go to this portal and find it.
Exactly. It's a fantastic resource to stay informed and understand the impact of these events.
And I imagine it's not just for the general public.
Right.
Researchers, scientists, policymakers could use this data as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, the disasters mapping portal is a really valuable tool for anybody interested in, studying, analyzing, or responding to natural disasters.
It's incredible to think about the potential applications of this data.
Yeah.
It's like we have a window into the complex dynamics of our planet.
It really is. And, as we continue to develop new satellite technologies and analytical tools, the possibilities are just, they're endless. We can use this data to understand the causes and consequences of these natural disasters, to develop more effective mitigation strategies, even predict future events with greater accuracy.
It's like we're slowly but surely piecing together this puzzle of our planet, and these satellites are giving us this bird's eye view of the bigger picture.
Well said. And as we gain a deeper understanding of how Earth's systems are all interconnected, we can work towards creating a more resilient and sustainable future for everyone.
This has been a fascinating discussion so far. But I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of this topic. There's still so much to explore.
There is.
Like you mentioned that MODIS can detect different wavelengths of light. Can you elaborate on that? What other information can we get from analyzing these different wavelengths?
Yeah, that's a great question. It kind of leads us into this whole other realm of possibilities. So the different wavelengths of light, also known as spectral bands, they can reveal all sorts of information about the Earth's surface and atmosphere. For example, certain wavelengths are particularly sensitive to vegetation health.
So we can actually use satellite imagery to assess the health of forests and other ecosystems.
Exactly. By analyzing the reflectance of light in different spectral bands, we can detect subtle changes in plant pigments that kind of indicate stress or disease.
So it's like we're taking a pulse of the planet from space. But how does this relate back to wildfires?
Well, the health of vegetation, it plays a huge role in wildfire risk, Dry, stressed vegetation. Well, it's just more susceptible to ignition.
Right.
And it can fuel more intense fires. So by monitoring vegetation health from space, we can identify the areas that are at higher risk of wildfire.
And then use that information to, prioritize fire prevention efforts.
Yes.
And allocate resources more effectively.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just vegetation health, too. We can also use satellite imagery to analyze things like topography, wind patterns, even human activity to develop more comprehensive wildfire risk assessments.
So it's like putting all these pieces of information together to create this more complete picture of the wildfire threat.
It is.
And the more data we have, the better equipped we are to make informed decisions about fire management.
Exactly. It's about harnessing the power of data to make our communities safer and to protect our natural resources.
It's a testament to, human ingenuity, I guess.
Yeah.
And our ability to use technology for good. And as we continue to push the boundaries of what's possible with this satellite technology, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for wildfire management and our understanding of our planet as a whole. It's mind-blowing, right? All this information we can gather about our planet from hundreds of miles away.
It really is a testament to science and technology,
Yeah.
And honestly, we're just scratching the surface here.
You've hinted at some incredible future applications for this satellite technology and wildfire management. Can you give our listener a glimpse into what that future might look like?
Okay, so imagine a world where satellites, equipped with even more advanced sensors, AI-powered algorithms, can predict wildfire risk with crazy accuracy. We're talking about identifying specific areas, right?
Okay.
That are highly susceptible to fire days or even weeks before before a spark even ignites.
So we could go from reacting to wildfires to actually anticipating and preventing them.
Exactly. We could target fire prevention efforts, like controlled burns, vegetation management to those high-risk areas, and significantly reduce the likelihood of a major wildfire breaking out.
That would be amazing. A total game changer for fire management and for the communities, living in those fire-prone areas.
Absolutely. And it goes beyond prediction, too. I see a future, where swarms of these miniature satellites working in concert provide constant real-time monitoring of forests, ecosystems, vulnerable areas. And these satellites could detect the tiniest flicker of a flame, alerting authorities within seconds.
So like a network of satellites almost acting as a planetary a fire alarm system.
Exactly. And that early detection,
Yeah.
I mean, that would allow for this rapid response. You could potentially extinguish fires before they even have a chance to spread and cause that really significant damage.
Okay, that's an incredible vision. I mean, it sounds like, I don't know, something out of a science fiction movie.
I know.
But it's, becoming more and more realistic every day.
It really is. And, as technology advances, I mean, the possibilities really are limitless. We could even, I don't know, imagine using satellites to deploy fire retardant or other suppressants directly onto a wildfire. You're adding another layer of defense.
It really does feel like we're on the cusp of a revolution in how we manage wildfires.
I think so.
But it's not just about the technology, is it?
No, you're right. Technology is a crucial part.
Yeah.
But we also need to address those underlying factors, right? The things that are contributing to the increase in wildfire frequency and intensity.
Like climate change.
Yeah.
Unsustainable land management practices.
Exactly. We need a more holistic approach, combining technological advancements with responsible land management, climate change mitigation, community engagement.
So it's a collective effort then.
It is.
Everyone has a role to play in creating this, I don't know what to call it, a more fire-resilient future.
Absolutely. I mean, from policymakers to scientists to everyday citizens, we all need to work together to address this, this growing challenge.
This deep dive has been, I don't know, it's been a real eye-opener for me. I've learned so much about the power of satellite technology.
Me too.
And its potential to, really transform how we understand and manage these wildfires.
It's been a pleasure sharing these insights with you and with our listeners. It's exciting to think about, the possibilities.
It is exciting. And to our listener, we hope this deep dive has, inspired you to learn more about this, this fascinating field and how technology really shapes our world. We've explored so much the power of these satellite images to track wildfires, the science behind those amazing visuals, even, glimpse into this future where we might be able to predict and prevent these events.
Yeah.
But, as we wrap up this deep dive, this whole episode, I'm left with a question. We've talked about the leaps in technology, right?
Right.
But what about the human element? As AI and automation become more and more sophisticated, what will the role of firefighters, other first responders, what will their role be in this future of wildfire management? That's definitely something to ponder. As we explore, how technology and our world are just so interconnected. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep looking up and stay curious.